Hello. The tussle over the tornado looks like turning into a full-scale political battle between East Anglia and Scotland.
In Scotland, the race is already on to make RAF Lossiemouth the home of the tornado. Campaigners were marching this weekend and even have Hollywood star Ewan McGregor as a supporter. His brother is a former tornado pilot. At stake in this region, RAF Marham in Norfolk. Here 5,000 jobs could be lost and more than £130 million to the local economy. Our defence reporter Alex Dunlop is at Marham now.
Well, Stuart, I think when the Defence Review was announced a couple of weeks ago, RAF Marham could have been forgiven for thinking that its future as a tornado base was assured. And that was reinforced a couple of days later with that leaked MOD document saying that the entire tornado fleet could be moved from Lossiemouth down here to Marham in Norfolk. But RAF Lossiemouth now knows it's in a very vulnerable position, and politicians there have mounted a vigorous, high-profile, aggressive campaign to keep the base open. You may have seen the pictures of 6,000 people demonstrating outside the Scottish base only yesterday. Well, it's meant that politicians here have had to up their profile, up their game, and bang the drum even louder for RAF Marham.
Visit the local school and you'll see how integrated RAF Marham is in the local community. Should it close as an RAF station, many of these children could also be uprooted.
About 85%, so that would be something like 110 children in the school are RAF children. So the vast majority of the children you have seen today are RAF children.
But what real chance the parents of these children will head off to RAF Lossiemouth or into other careers? Politicians locally are worried. Yesterday, thousands at the Scottish base marched and made a noise. Here, MPs have taken a quieter approach. They sent the Defence Secretary a letter. Operationally, they say, Marham is better placed geographically to fight the war in Afghanistan. Planes from Lossiemouth would need expensive refuelling. Marham has an extra long runway to take bigger planes, unlike its sister station in Scotland. All the major plane maintenance is based at Marham, not at Lossiemouth. Relocating that would cost £50 million.
It's all there. It's all been set up to look after the whole fleet. Now, if you were to move somewhere else, you'd have to take all that and take it somewhere else, which would add massively to the costs of the exercise. And given that the whole point of this exercise is to reduce costs, it makes absolutely no sense.
They're talking about tactics politically, Ray.
On a BBC Radio Norfolk phone-in today, the spectre that RAF Marham could close engaged many who live well beyond the base.
What's going to happen? Are they going to spend money up in Lossiemouth and take everything up there?
If David Cameron is daft enough to put it up to Scotland, well, I should think everyone will vote for UKIP at the next election.
Now, local politicians, I think, are going to play the economy as their trump card. After all, Marham generates more jobs, more money for this part of the world than Lossiemouth does for its corner of Scotland. That said, I think there's an acute awareness here tonight that RAF Marham's future may be determined by high politics at Westminster. We should find out by Christmas.
Thanks, Alex. So, this is not just about Britain's defence, it's about the economy too. Our business correspondent Richard Bond looks at who's winning the argument, not with the MOD, but with the Treasury.
The town of Swaffham boasts a family-run boutique hotel, due in part to its nearness to RAF Marham.
During the week, we've got business guests, consultants that are working for BAE Systems that come and use the hotel Monday to Friday, and they probably take up 50% of our rooms and also the restaurant. Then also people are on the base, they come out and use the hotel, restaurant and coffee shops. So that could be the wives, girlfriends and families.
Independent shops in the town also draw significant business from the base.
Got to remember that there's a lot of people coming from away from Marham to work there on a regular basis, and they're coming through Swaffham and they're spending their money here, which is a boost to us, no doubt.
Marham, 10 miles up the road from Swaffham, is West Norfolk's biggest employer by far. 1 in 12 local jobs depends on it. But which RAF base is the most important to its district, Marham or Lossiemouth? Well, Marham contributes £130 million to the local economy, employing 5,100 people. Lossiemouth contributes £90 million to its area, employing 2,300. And the unemployment rate in West Norfolk is quite a bit higher than in Moray, home to Lossiemouth. The point on jobs is important. Marham's defenders say it would be wrong to portray this as a battle between the affluent south and a deprived Scottish region. Richard Bond, BBC Look East.
Well, of course, this is a hot topic at Westminster. Late this afternoon, I spoke to Angus Robertson, the Scottish Nationalist MP for Moray, and the Norfolk MP, Elizabeth Truss, and I started by asking if this would be a political decision.
I think it's wrong that politics should trump economics and military criteria, and that's what the Defence Secretary said today. So I'm confident that we'll move ahead, I hope, on that basis. And I think that it would be wrong to make a decision and move jobs from an area of higher unemployment to an area of lower unemployment because of politics.
Mr Robertson, isn't it right that we should be putting these bases where people need the jobs?
Well, the important thing about the armed forces is they are there where there is a defence and a security need for them to be there. And what Elizabeth hasn't mentioned, of course, is that the Conservative Lib Dem government have already closed a base within the last 4 weeks, or at least announced it, and that's RAF Kinloss. The closure of a second base in such a small geographical region, which actually has the lowest wage economy in the UK, would be devastating. The most important factors, however, are strategic and defence, and what this government is foolishly planning to do is to close 2/3 of the air bases in Scotland, getting rid of 70% of all RAF personnel in Scotland. I don't think any sensible Defence Secretary, regardless of their party affiliation, would countenance such a stupid move.
So you're both saying that on defence grounds, yours is the right choice. You can't both be right.
Can I make the point as well that we've already seen a base close in Norfolk in 2006, so we've already been affected, and there are many other bases in East Anglia affected too. And that Norfolk is a better strategic location for the current war we are fighting in Afghanistan. You can reach the forward operating base without the need for in-flight refuelling. It's what RAF personnel say is the best base for the current combat we are fighting.
Elizabeth Truss, has the campaign in Scotland stolen a march on the people in Norfolk? They are actually marching and campaigning. As far as we can make out, the only thing that's happened down here is a couple of people have written letters.
Well, we have had a big letter-writing campaign, and we're holding an adjournment debate later this week in Parliament to raise the issue of RAF Marham. I think what the people in Norfolk realise is the economic case and the military case is strongly in our favour, and we don't want this debate to be trumped by politics, which is what we're talking about.
Have either of you been given a nod or a wink?
I certainly haven't. What I have been told personally by Liam Fox is that this is going to be a political decision. It's not going to be a decision taken within main building of the Ministry of Defence. Recommendations are going to be made. I fear the recommendations within the RAF so far have been for RAF Marham. I've seen documentation to that effect. And I very much hope that government ministers take cognizance of all of the factors that will play their part. And it is right to say that defence and military arguments should rule the day. And that's why when the Joint Combat Aircraft is the future of fast jets in the RAF, and they decide that it should be at RAF Lossiemouth, it would be stupid to close it.
Well, I think what Angus has just said is that the paperwork, and I don't know about it either, and I certainly haven't had a nod or a wink, the paperwork is showing what I hear day in, day out from RAF personnel is that they favour RAF Marham as being the best base militarily for the current conflict in Afghanistan, which is what we are facing, and it is where the engineering capability is based at the moment. It's where the skills base is. So those are the rational arguments. The arguments being presented don't seem to me to be about that. They seem to be entirely about politics. And what I worry about is a political campaign is being fought here, which has got nothing to do with the interests of service personnel or the economy of our country, and I think that's wrong.
Both of you, thank you very much for being with us.
Well, our political correspondent Andrew Sinclair is here listening to that. So what do you think? Will it come down to economics or high politics?
Well, the MOD insists tonight that it will be an economic and defence decision. And from what we've seen, Marham has a very strong case for that. What worries Norfolk's MPs is that it will actually be a political one. And this is why. They say, how do you think it looks in Scotland when you close RAF Kinloss and then say you're going to close the next door base? We are 6 months away from important elections to the Scottish Parliament. The SNP are already portraying this as the London government kicking Scotland when it's down. In the world of tough political decisions, the argument goes, it may be easier for the government, if unfair, for it to close a base in a safe Norfolk seat rather than cause more trouble in Scotland. Now, that might not happen. The MOD may well listen to the economic argument, but Norfolk's MPs are going to fight hard.
And when will we know?
Well, until recently, we're being told the decision was due in the next few weeks. The Defence Minister has said in the last few minutes it might not be until next spring.
Andrew, thank you.
Now, if you're a fan of Matt Carr...